Heather Foster with the two apps built for the Romare Bearden exhibition, and later Robbie Davis with Stories from Main Street. And I think she has a
Is it 6 and 7 maybe?
yeah, probably. Okay. Thank you.
All right, I've decided to go old school on this to keep myself honest. You guys actually have a takeaway. How crazy is that? A takeaway. Paper. And you actually have an activity too. So on the back of this is one of the collages from the exhibition. And I've got crayons. So pass everything around because everybody's happy when they color. I've determined that. And if you come back, I'm not above bribery to get people to come back and visit like our little station where you can demo the app. So there is a $10 gift card to Potbelly for someone who brings this back with the best rendition of the Bearden version of Poseidon. So this is your motivation. We'll see if a $10 gift card is enough to get people to participate. That's always something that I'm looking to find out. What is the tipping point for people to participate?
How many sandwiches?
One sandwich.
Maybe 2 sandwiches.
These are awesome crayons from the dollar store. So I am from Sites, and we're the traveling exhibition service. And last October or so, we launched an exhibition about a series that was created by an artist called Romare Bearden. And Bearden was born in 1911. He was prolific at everything he did, and if you know anything about his artwork, he did everything from cartoons to illustrations to painting. He even designed sets. He was a songwriter. I mean, the man could do pretty much anything. And he ultimately took on a series that a lot of other artists had taken on at one point and the other, which was the illustration of Homer's Odyssey. So we had an opportunity to travel this collection that had not been put together really ever. And it was an amazing opportunity, so we decided to jump on it, and we thought, okay, this is a pretty interesting opportunity for us to teach the Odyssey, because the Odyssey is not exactly something that's easy to dive into. How many people here have actually read the Odyssey in their entirety? In its entirety? Okay, a couple people, all right.
Trouble for playing the app in this.
So if you've read it, it's like 12,000 lines of poetry. You're really, really brave, okay? So the majority of people who look at the Odyssey is probably like me, and back in the day I had the Cliff Notes version of the Odyssey and was flipping through it, but this is a way you can actually get into it. So we decided to make this version available, 2 apps in this case. One is an audio tour, and one is an actual collage app where you can try to recreate images from the Bearden series. And our goal was really to make this democratic and to give people kind of new intellectual inroads to get to this content, because it's dense, it's hard content, and it's often the kind of content that you sit in your English class in high school and it's like, oh man, please don't make me do this. But this is really a way of getting people interested in it. And Bearden's work itself is very modern, it's very hip, it's very colorful. And though the series was created in the 1970s, you could totally look at it today and think that it was created, you know, a week ago. It's that contemporary. So we wanted to give the work kind of a technological impression and give people a sense of getting into the work through technology. And so what we decided to do was to take a series of the collages that are featured in the tour and deconstruct them. And that was a challenge on a couple of different levels. First, we had to get permission from the copyright holder. And a lot of artists are not keen on that. You know, they don't want your work to be deconstructed and to be seen as it wasn't originally. So we got permission from the Bearden Foundation, which was fantastic. They gave us 5 works of art to play with. And we had the developers start to think about how we could make these collages interactive. And essentially, they were fantastic. We had given them kind of a framework and said, this is what we wanted to do. We kind of want it to look like Photoshop. We want people to have a chance to, you know, add color and to slice things, and they said, no, that's not going to work. That's too many options. So we gave them an idea, and they ran with something and made it even better, which was an app tool for iPad rather, that allows people to take a blank canvas and essentially drag elements onto the canvas. And in the midst of doing that, they can also change the color of those elements. They can rescale them. They can add text. They can even kind of groove out to some music while they're doing it. Very much in the spirit of Bearden, who was into jazz and, you know, had friends like Duke Ellington and, you know, all those folks that you hang with. So essentially this was a way of just allowing people to get at the heart of these things and do it in a way that made it personal. And we were really, really pleased. We launched the collage app about a year ago today. We launched the audio tour November 2012, and as Marcella was saying, it was pretty tough for us to stick to deadline. We missed the deadline for the opening of the exhibition by about a month. We missed the opening of the exhibition for the collage app by about 2 months, much to the chagrin of our collaborators. But I think when they saw the tools, they were really, really happy with them, and they were glad that we had kind of stuck it out. To date, the collage has been downloaded about 10,000 times. The audio tour, again, numbers similar to y'all, so I don't feel so bad now. About 900 downloads for the audio tour from iOS and about 190 from Android, which we weren't, you know, incredibly surprised by that. But we loved it. We launched it. We thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. And we were really heartened to know that other people loved it too. We did win a Muse Award. We won honorable mention at Museums in the Web with the app, the collage app. We won a Muse Award at AAM. We won Muse Gold with that this year, so 2 major awards. And the audio tour actually won an honorable mention as well from Computer World. So we were pretty excited about the accolades that we had received, and thanks to Nancy, we got a little bit of play in the App Store for about a week. We were featured as one of the top downloads for in the education section, which boosted our numbers. As you all know, whatever's up there gets downloaded. We also had some good promotion from one of the collaborators on the audio tour, and his name was DJ Spooky. And DJ Spooky is an artist, he's a writer, he's a musician, and he actually helped us create some of the sound clips that you'll hear in the audio tour as well as the collage app. So he was big in helping us promote it. So, you know, part of this icon, this infographic here is some of those things that we did right and some of the things that we wish we had done better. So we rated ourselves, and we felt like we did pretty well when it came to creating new opportunities for learning and transcending disciplinary boundaries, just because it was just the nature of the content. The nature of the content was music, art, history, literature, etc. So it was really there already. And we felt like we did a good job of updating the SI brand, because this was very new, and it was a different way of engaging with art, particularly with the collage app. So we felt like we did a great thing there in allowing people to really own this content and just manipulate it however they wanted to manipulate it. We gave ourselves a 4 for engaging with audiences where they are, because the nature of traveling exhibitions is not stationary or where we are, it's where they are. And that presents some challenges for us, because we kind of give up ship when we send something out on the road, and we have to just, in some ways, we just have to allow things to be the way they are, because we can't hold people's hands when something's in Sacramento or when it's in Indianapolis. There's phone calls, obviously, that can be made, but we rarely, if ever, travel with these things. So we do kind of a little bit of follow-up with the people that are on the staff of those museums that we're working with, but ultimately, when it comes to signage, when it comes to, hey, did you check out those devices, and have your docents give a little cue for whether or not they like the tour, that unfortunately is something we can't control. We wish we could. And therefore, one of our lessons learned in wishful thinking is all really about analytics and metrics and how to best engage people where they are and just getting that data. One of the biggest lessons learned we had is that we thought metrics were optional. And so we went into the development process thinking, all right, we want this, and we want this cool thing, and we want this awesome feature. But you know, that other little thing, that's not really that important. That's not too sexy. We don't want that. But you know, after the end of the day, that stuff that's behind the scenes really, really matters. And you know, moving forward, we're going to do our best to try to make sure that that happens, even when we're unsure whether or not we're going to have, you know, Wi-Fi or a live connection in a gallery space. We've got to kind of think about how we can incorporate those metrics so that we're not spinning blind, walking blind into the next process. But you know, a couple of the other things that we learned: narrow your audience. You know, when people asked us, well, who's this for? We said everybody. It's for everybody. Anybody who loves art, anybody who loves history. I think we got lucky because we had so many different topics. There's kind of something for everybody. But generally speaking, if we had narrowed our audience, particularly with the audio tour, and said it's for 6th to 8th graders, then you speak their language. You know, you're not trying to please everybody. So for the audio tour in particular, we said we were going to go with a teen audience, but at the end of the day, we kind of spoke to more of a museum, erudite audience, even though the audio was very compelling. We didn't quite stick on task with that. Contracting, similar story with everybody here. Know your contract, especially in your delivery. We were about 8 months in the process of thinking through everything. Surprisingly, though, our contracting went really quickly because we cried a river and did all the things that we could to try to push things through. But at the end of the day, when we had the product nearing delivery, we're like, what did we ask for? Did we ask for this? Did we ask for that? And we weren't so familiar with it because it had passed by so many months that it was difficult to really ascertain if we were getting what we paid for. So familiarizing yourself with that on a regular basis, I think, was something that would have really benefited us, which speaks to the whole concept of starting early. And I know you guys feel me on this. Make sure your content is final. We were sending piecemeal content to the developer during our audio tour, and sometimes they would get the changes, sometimes they wouldn't. Sometimes they were speaking to different people, which made it difficult to know whether or not you had passed those changes on. So ultimately, we ended up wasting a lot of time in the editorial process rather than in the development process. So we learned once and for all, once you hit that send button, it is done. There's nothing else that needs to change except for those egregious errors that you found every once in a while. Marketing plan, tough, similar story to everybody. We tried, we really did. We created a pretty sturdy marketing plan coming into it and did indeed have a process that included social media, that included usage of SI's website, colleagues like you guys, and we really did a good job, I think, within the first month of keeping that up to date. But then it was like, woo, deadly crash after that. So we have maintained the ability to promote the app with each individual venue that hosts the exhibition. So there is a little bit of bump in the metrics to see when people are downloading, because each new venue that hosts the exhibition, it's new to them, so it's a new opportunity to promote it. But essentially, from our point of view, really the only thing we're doing currently is about a 1 to 2 time a week tweet or a Facebook post or something like that, trying to keep the information free and yet not to try to give people user fatigue and say, oh, I've heard about that 14 times this week. Please don't talk to me about this again. You don't want to overburden people with the same old information. But speaking to that, the concept of not stopping after launch. How do you sustain the app after, 6 months, 8 months? And does it matter? Are you kind of okay with the fact that it dies in a short period of time? Or are you trying to sustain it over the life of your whole museum show? Or in our case, it's 2 years, which is the duration of the tour. Define measurable goals, totally, you know, it's not a goal to say, we want people to learn. And that's kind of what we did. You know, we weren't necessarily focused or narrow on what we wanted people to get out of it. So learning in that capacity, but we were pretty good about brainstorming. We would meet informally in the hall, or we might see each other at lunch or at one of these mobile meetups and say, okay, if we had the money, what would we want to do? And we were lucky because we got involved with the folks at EdLab who helped us really define some of the goals and try to bring these apps into classrooms. And when you're actually working with kids, you can kind of see how this should be and why it's not working or why it is working. So that was a continuous conversation that we had pretty much all summer long into the fall. So there wasn't, you know, a few weeks that went by that we weren't talking about the app and how to improve it, where we could come up with new funding, and you know what we would do if we had all the money in the world. So you know that brainstorming session, again, not letting something die once it's out there in the app store, is really critical in kind of keeping the energy alive. And you know, Nancy mentioned the term grassroots, and I think for us, you know, I was thinking about hitting the ground running and outreach, and literally, you know, walking it around to people in your office and having them try it, or walking out into the gallery, or, you know, heaven forbid, one of us actually go to a school, a local school, and say, look, this is a great tool, want to try it, you know? But the concept of using your own 2 feet to get people to engage is so foreign, you know, to us now, but it's really critical. And the more I saw people, you know, me playing with it and people seeing me engage with it, the more likely they were to want to engage with it as well. So that enthusiasm is definitely contagious. But you know, moving forward, we have a small amount of money to improve the app, not nearly what we paid for it. Ultimately, the 2 apps cost us about $60,000, which for the level of creativity and the level of developmental muscle that went into this was actually quite a deal. Considering we also had content created by Acoustiguide for the audio tour, so it was quite a bargain in the long run. But you know, moving forward, we have about $5,000 to improve the app in the short term, and we're really trying to grapple with how to use that money, because it's not a whole lot of money. So you know, now the iterative process is who's using the tour, and how can we make it that much better for them, and just kind of forget about the rest of the people who we had aspired to reach. You know, it's all about who's using it and using that data to improve the tool. And to that end, you know, just if you don't have to build the basics, don't. Yeah, I would love to see somebody else at the Smithsonian reuse the skin of the collage app, especially because it's incredibly powerful. Not only for, you know, the possibility of creating and deconstructing art, but for building an airplane, or for doing anything you wanted to do where you start with a model and then continue to add on to that model until it recreates a new thing. So, you know, I think in the long run, I would love for this app to inform other projects that people are doing, so that you know, we could kind of continue to evolve with the technology and allow it to go to its next level, which is pretty profound. Once you use it, I definitely want feedback. And I also want to see your collages, because I see some people working very hard. So it's excellent. Good work, good work. Thank you. That's about it.